Hello students, today I am going to continue with the same chapter that we began in our last class, that is the ailing planet, the green movement's role, which is the fifth chapter of your book Hornbill. So before beginning or before proceeding with the chapter, let us recollect what we read in the last class. And I hope you all remember that this chapter is written by Nani Palkiwala, and this chapter is an article which he wrote in the year 1994 and was published in the Indian Express. And I know that you all remember that it is an article which highlights the degrading environment or the ailing planet, that is the deteriorating condition of our mother earth, of the planet earth. And the first awareness which dawned upon the human beings, because earlier since many decades we have been exploiting our natural resources, and we never thought of our mother earth or our planet. We had been recklessly using all the resources of the earth without thinking of its condition in near future. So in 1972 we had read that the green movement was started in New Zealand, and this green movement helped the environmentalists to raise awareness about the harmful condition of the earth. And since then there has been no looking back, as the movement has been successfully educating people about the conservation of the environment. And you all know that earth is like a patient whose health is declining, and it is our moral duty to improve it. And in 1987 the term sustainable development was used by the World Commission on Environment and Development. And we had also read that a zoo in Lusaka, Zambia has a cage in which a sign reads the world's most dangerous animal, and inside there is a mirror which reflects our image, that is the human beings, and it gives a message that human beings are the most dangerous animals. And the Brand Commission raised a question that are we to leave our successors a scorched planet of advancing deserts, impoverished landscapes, and ailing environment? And we had also read that our earth has four principal biological systems, and it is also living as we human beings, and it also has its metabolic needs and vital processes. And the four main principal biological systems that form the foundation of the global economic system are fisheries, grasslands, forests, and croplands. And these four systems provide food and raw material for industries, except for minerals and synthetics. And we had also read that with these systems becoming unsustainable, fisheries will collapse and the forest will slowly disappear because of the human actions. And the grasslands also will turn into a barren wastelands, and croplands will become worse, as we human beings are cutting down the forest to build the houses or build shelter for themselves. They are not thinking of the earth, the deteriorating condition, the worst condition of our planet earth. And then we had read that in poor countries the forests are being cut down for fuel wood, and which is used for cooking purposes. The wood that is cut is used as a fuel for cooking food in poor countries. And there are some areas where the cost of fuel wood is more than the cost of the food, and it is leading to deforestation at an alarming rate. And we had also read about Dr. Myers, who says that the tropical forests are the powerhouse of evolution. Several species of life face extinction as a result of its destruction. So as we are clearing down the forest to build houses, so what will happen in near future? The ecological balance of the earth will be disturbed, as the forests only are the main source of evolution on this earth, and there are many species who rely on these forests, who are living just because of these forests. And if these forests are destroyed, then these species will face the extinction, and they will get extinct, due to which the ecological system will be disturbed. Then now we are going to read further what the author wants to say next. Now in the next paragraph, the narrator says that it has been well said that forests precede mankind and deserts follow. The world's ancient patrimony of tropical forests is now eroding at the rate of 40 to 50 million acres a year, and the growing use of dung for burning deprives the soil of an important natural fertilizer. The World Bank estimates that a five-fold increase in the rate of forest planting is needed to cope with the expected fuel wood demand in the year 2000. And James Speth, the president of the World Resources Institute, said the other day, we are saying that we are losing the forest at an acre a second, but it is much closer to an acre and a half to a second. So first we will see to the meaning of the hard words. Precede means to come before in order or position, and patrimony means property inherited from father or ancestor. Deprives means prevent a person from using something. So now what do you mean by this line, that it has been well said that forests precede mankind? What does the writer want to say with this line? So he wants to say that the so-called development of mankind that results in additional burden on earth's resources due to industrialization and urbanization. So as we human beings are developing and planting, or you can say and constructing more and more industries, or as the urbanization is there in the country, so we human beings are putting an extra burden on the earth's resources. That means we are recklessly using the earth's resources, and this blatant exploitation of these resources couples with pollution of all sorts and has resulted in the depletion of forests. So hence, as mankind expands or he develops, the forests disappear, and the very same human activities viciously pollute and denigrate and destroy ecosystems, thus turning once self-sustaining ecosystems into irreversible wastelands, that is deserts. Thus deserts, that therefore the writer has said that deserts follow mankind, means the human development activities cause the formation of deserts. And further he says that forests and deserts come first in order in comparison to humans, and the ancient inheritance of tropical forests is constantly wearing away. That means it is getting destroyed at a rate of 40 to 50 million acres a year, and also the burning of dung is preventing the soil to become a natural fertilizer. So the cow dung which is consumed by the human beings, because you must have seen in the villages, the people, they collect the cow dung and then they burn it as a fuel for making their food. So what is happening? Because of the use of this cow dung, the soil is losing its fertility. Now because cow dung is a good fertilizer for the soil, so when the soil is not getting the cow dung, the soil is getting less fertile now. And to meet the needs for the fuel wood demand, there is a need to increase the rate of forest plantation by 5-fold, that is 5 times by the year 2020. And the narrator says that we are losing the forest closer to an acre and a half to a second. In a second, we cut down acre and a half of the forest. And according to James Speth, president of the World Resource Institute. So Mr. James Speth, the president of World Resource Institute, says that we are losing an acre and a half of the forest in a second, which is an alarming rate, and it is the indication that our earth will soon get destroyed, because we human beings are paving our way to destruction. Then the next paragraph says, Article 48A of the Constitution of India provides that the state shall endeavour to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country. But what causes endless anguish is the fact that laws are never respected nor enforced in India. For instance, the Constitution says that casteism, untouchability and bonded labour shall be abolished, but they flourish shamelessly even after 44 years of operation of the Constitution. A recent report of our Parliament's Estimates Committee has highlighted the near catastrophic depletion of India's forests over the last 4 decades. India, according to reliable data, is losing its forests at the rate of 3.7 million acres a year, and large areas officially designated as forest land are already virtually treeless. The actual loss of forest is estimated to be about 8 times the rate indicated by the government statistics. So now, in this paragraph, let's see to the meaning of all the hard words. The word endeavour means trying hard to achieve something. Anguish means pain or suffering. And casteism means discrimination on the grounds of caste. And catastrophic depletion means a harmful reduction in a number of something. So in these lines, the narrator wants to say that according to Article 48A of the Constitution of India, the state should try to protect and improve the environment and must protect the forest and wildlife of the country. But the painful fact is that the laws in India are not at all followed. For example, the law was passed many years back regarding the casteism, untouchability and bonded labour. They are abolished but still are followed shamelessly. And over the last 4 decades, India is losing forests at a harmful rate of 3.7 million acres a year, as per the report of Parliament's Estimates Committee. The large area of forest land is now treeless, and the actual loss is estimated to be 8 times the rate given by the government statistics. And it is very true that we Indians, we never follow the laws. Laws are made in India, but they are never respected nor obeyed by the people. So we human beings, we people of our country are only responsible for this. The laws are made, the punishment or the laws are made against the cutting of trees, but still the people, they shamelessly cut down the trees, and despite of the awareness that was created long time back, still the people do not follow it and do not plant as much trees as required in order to save our environment. Now the next paragraph says that a threefold a 3-year study using satellites and aerial photography conducted by the United Nations warns that the government has deteriorated so badly that it is critical in many of the 88 countries investigated. And there can be no doubt that the growth of world population is one of the strongest factors distorting the future of human society. It took mankind more than 1 million years to reach the first billion. That was the world population around the year 1800, and by the year 1900 a second billion was added, and the 20th century has added another 3.7 billion. The present world population is estimated at 5.7 billion, and every 4 days the world's population increases by 1 million. So now let's see to the meaning of the hard words in the paragraphs. Distorting means deform or disfigure. So in these lines the narrator says that according to the 3-year study that was conducted by the United Nations using satellites and aerial photography, our environment has got so bad that in 88 countries it has reached the critical stage. The growth of world population at such a fast rate is one of the strongest reasons, and you all know very well, as the population increases the forests are cut down in order to build shelter for the human beings. So we can say that the growing population is one of the strongest reasons behind the distortion of the future of mankind. And when it took more than 1 million years to reach the first billion population, in the next 100 years the population number increased by next billion numbers, and in the 20th century the population reached 3.7 billion, and the present number is 5.7 billion. And presently the case is of the population increasing by 1 million every 4 days. So the writer or the narrator raises a very important issue of overpopulation or the growing population of our country, which is one of the main factors or one of the main reason of the earth getting deteriorated, or the condition of the earth getting deteriorated. Then further the next paragraph says that fertility falls as income rises, education spreads and health improves. Thus development is the best contraceptive. But development itself may not be possible if the present increase in number continues. The rich get richer, the poor beget children, which condemns them to remain poor. More children does not mean more workers, merely more people without work. It is not suggested that human beings be treated like cattle and compulsorily sterilized. But there is no alternative to voluntary family planning without introducing an element of coercion. Coercion is force, and the choice is really between control of population and perpetuation of poverty. So in these lines the word beget means give life to, condemns means find guilty of something, sterilized means make free from bacteria or other microorganisms, and voluntary means done or given of one's free will, and coercion means force, and perpetuation means keep on going, unending you can say. So in these lines the narrator says that development is the best possible solution for overpopulation, and it can help in reduction in fertility and rise in income, to spread more education and improvement in health. But if the number of population will keep increasing, it may not help in attaining any kind of development. So you all know it very well. Development is not possible as the population is increasing. As the rich, these days you must have seen or you have read in your geography also that as the today in these days the rich is getting richer and the poor give birth to the children who are bound to remain poorer, because you know that in poor families, the poor people, they keep on giving birth to the children, hoping that they would get more hands to work and earn for the family. But they don't know that as the number of children increases, they are going to remain unemployed, and they are bound to remain poorer, and more population will lead to more unemployment. And humans should not be treated like cattle who are sterilized by force, but to control population, some element of force has to be put on for family planning. So it is one of the main thing that people should follow. So this is the only solution for to stop the growth of population, that is family planning. And for that we need the people to be educated. So education is the main source through which we can educate the people, not to increase the number of members in the family. And now humans have to choose between population control and keeping up with poverty. That is, they have to make a choice between the two, whether they want to live poor or by increasing the population. So they need to control the increasing number of population if they want to avoid living in poverty. Then further, the next paragraph says that the population of India is estimated to be 920 million today, more than the entire populations of Africa and South America put together. No one familiar with the conditions in India would doubt that the hope of the people would die in their hungry hutments. Hutments is the collection of huts, unless population control is given topmost priority. For the first time in the human history, we see a transcending concern, the survival not just of the people but of the planet. We have begun to take a holistic view of the very basis of our existence. The environmental problem does not necessarily signal our demise. Demise is death, untimely death, and it is our passport for future. The emerging new world vision has ushered in the era of responsibility. It is a holistic view, an ecological view, seeing the world as an integrated whole rather than a dissociated collection of parts. So let's see to the meaning of the hard words in these paragraphs. The word hutment means, as I told you, collection of huts. Transcending concern is the concern that existed for a very long time and has passed down from one generation to another. And demise, as I told you, untimely death. And ushered is guide someone somewhere. So in these lines, the narrator wants to say that the population of India is 920 million. That is more than the population of Africa and South America put together. And if the population is not controlled, then most of the people would die in their huts with just a hope. But with time, people are now concerned about the survival of the planet, and we have now started to see our existence with a comprehensive view. Solving environmental problems are a passport to the future and should not be seen as a remark of a death. We should see the world as a whole and not as different parts. So now what does the author mean by saying that the emerging new world vision has ushered in the era of responsibility? So we can say that according to the environmentalists and ecologists have given a clarion call, a final call to respond positively to the environmental issues. And this new world vision has today ushered in an era of responsibility, making the modern man adopt a holistic view of the world as an integrated whole rather than a dissociated collection of parts. That is, to keep in view of the whole world rather than thinking that the world is divided into many parts. And men at all levels, whether industrialists, businessmen or teachers, have awakened to the need of popularizing environmental issues and finding their existence in excellence in environment performance. And man today has thus realized his responsibility towards the planet. There is a need to conserve it, not as a legacy inherited from our ancestors, but a property borrowed from our children. As caretakers of their property, the onus lies on us to, or the responsibility lies on us to keep it conserved and protected for the future use. And now, why does the author say that the growth of world population is one of the strongest factors distorting the future of human society? Why is he saying so? He is saying because our world is bursting at the seams so much that the ecosystem in many parts of the world have come on the brink of collapse now, and startling and stark realities are revealed from the population statistics. Whereas it took mankind more than 1,000,000 years to reach the first billion, and which was the figure around the year 1800, and it took only 100 years to add on another billion. That is, the population is continuously increasing every year, and presently the world population is estimated to be 7.1 billion. And it is alarming to note that the world population is increasing 1 million every 4 days, which is the alarming rate, you can say that. And with population growth going out of control, all the problems related with the living conditions have been aggravated or increased, and congestion is there in towns, more traffic is there on roads, more deforestation is taking place, and more smoke is there, more factories, more effluents and dust in the environment, and more demand for food and fuel. And the time may soon arrive when the earth will be able to take in no more, and all its systems will collapse. All the ecosystems of the earth will collapse, threatening to annihilate, and it will be very difficult for us to exist on this earth. So the dire need therefore is to give topmost priority to population control. Otherwise, there is no hope for countries like India. With all other methods of controlling population having failed, awareness is the only effective solution that we are left with. So therefore, we human beings, or we the people of our country, should take care, should see to the, or should join hands with the other people to control the population of the earth, so that we can save our planet. The next paragraph says, industry has a most crucial role to play in this new era of responsibility. What a transformation would be effected if more businessmen shared the view of the chairman of DuPont, Mr. Edgar S. Woolard, who 5 years ago declared himself to be the company's chief environmental officer. He said, "Our continued existence as a leading manufacturer requires that we excel in environmental performance." And of all the statements made by Margaret Thatcher during the years of her prime ministership, none has passed so decisively into the current coin of English usage as her felicitous words. No generation has a freehold on this earth. All we have is a life tenancy, and with a full repairing lease. In the words of Mr. Lester Brown, we have not inherited this earth from our forefathers, but we have borrowed it from our children. So now first we'll see to the meaning of the hard words in all these paragraphs. The word decisively means clear and definitive. Felicitous means well chosen. Freehold means permanent tenure of land or property. Tenancy means possession of the land. So in these lines, the narrator says that in the era of responsibility towards the environment, industry plays an important role. And chairman of DuPont, Mr. Woolard, declared himself as the chief environmental officer, and such attitude in other businessmen can have a great effect on the transformation. So these people only, such people can bring the transformation. So, and when Margaret Thatcher, who was the Prime Minister, her one statement which was so well chosen was that she said that no human on this earth holds a permanent tenure, and we all have lived, we all have life, possessions, and a full repairing lease. And according to Mr. Lester Brown, we have borrowed the earth from our children. We have not inherited from our forefathers, but we have borrowed the earth from our children, and it is our prime duty to save the resources of this earth for the coming generation. So if I ask you what is the essence of Margaret Thatcher's statement that is quoted by Palkhiwala in this essay, so we can say that a rising concern is being felt globally to strive for the survival, and not just of the people but also of the planets. So an era of responsibility has been ushered now, in where people have begun to take a holistic view. They have started thinking the whole world as one, and they have considered it as the very basis of our existence. The need to strike a natural balance in the ecosystems of the world is being felt strongly than ever before. Now the people have become aware that we have to save the ecosystem of the earth, and one cannot, however, rule out that man will continue to callously and ruthlessly destroy the ecosystems of the earth. And the rapid deforestation to create space for the increasing mouths, that is the increasing number of people, has resulted in soil erosion and denigration of the land resources, and also the destruction of the climate controlling factors. And you all very well know that the depletion of ozone layer, which is nature's umbrella to protect it from harmful rays, has exposed the planet to grave dangers. And the efforts of the ecologists and scientists have contributed tremendously in bringing about awakening towards conserving the planet. And man today has begun to realize that human beings have an ethical obligation to be good carriers of the planet and responsible. We are the responsible trustees of the legacy of the future generation. That means we have to keep it preserved for our coming generation. And the concept of sustainable development, which was popularized in the year 1987 by World Commission on Environment, has made man conscious of his responsibility to use the earth's natural resources for his present needs without stripping the natural world of resources which the future generation would need. So this world belongs to the future generation, not to us. Therefore, we, the present generation, must fully understand the implications of Margaret Thatcher's word and act responsibly towards safeguarding the planet for our children. And it is our paramount duty to undo or repair the damage that we have caused to the global environment by planting more and more trees and by using the unrenewable resources carefully. So this is all. I hope you all have understood the chapter and got the message of the chapter, what the narrator wants to say through this chapter. So this is all for today. Hope you all have understood it. Thank you and goodbye.